share my screen real quick. Do that and present it. There we go. Can you guys can see that, right? Let me pull up the chat so I can read questions as I move through this. Let's see, actually, that is blocking my notes part. Let me just pull them up on my phone. Okay, let's get started. So I've come to Skill Pop a few times in the past and talked about conquering your camera roll. And I'm going to be doing that again in January. January tends to be the month that we're all like going to, turn over a new leaf with our photo organization. So I'll be back in January to talk about that. But tonight I wanted to talk about family albums or photo books because this is a nice time of the year to give them as gifts or recap your year or so many fun ways we can use photos. So that's what we're going to talk about tonight. There we go. So my name is Casey, but I am known online as Miss Freddie. I am a professional photo organizer. A lot of people don't know that that's a thing, but I was a professional photographer for many years and then realized that people needed help using and enjoying their photos and organizing their photos more than they needed my help taking more photos of their family. So I retired from photography. I do photo organizing full time. I teach courses online to help with a variety of photo related projects. And I also do one-on-one work for clients who don't want to do the work themselves. I have two kids, a 12-year-old and a 10-year-old, and then I have the dog that you probably saw at the beginning. He will be hanging out in my office, but hopefully we won't hear a peep from him. So I'm going to start with a slide that is maybe a little bit too depressing for such a fun topic here, but I work with a ton of clients and they all use words like these when they talk about their photo collection or when they talk about making photo books. So they say things like they feel guilty that their photos are all digital because they want to get them into the hands of their family. They feel shame that they've let them accumulate to the point that they have. They feel they fall into the comparison trap where they see their neighbor or another mom friend making books and they feel they should do the same. Frustrated with themselves, with others. A lot of clients have the perfectionist problem, right? Where they haven't made any books because they're so paralyzed by the decision of what's the best paper, what's the best size, what's the best printing company, how can I make sure that all the books I ever make match? But overall, overwhelmed would probably be the most common term. And just because I was curious of like maybe my experience with all my clients is different. I asked ChatGPT, why would people sign up for a class about making photo books? And it agreed with all of these, that there's just too many photos, too many options, too many books they want to make, and that they just can't get started. So I'm going to start with a little reframe here. Those are all valid emotions. It's okay that we all feel those emotions, but we're going to try to strip it down to what are we doing? All we're doing is printing our photos. All we're doing is printing our photos. And depending on your ages, if you're my age, we grew up in a time where all we did was print photos. We would print photos every month, every week by developing rolls of film. So we've done this before, we can do this again. And after we print our photos in book form now, we will feel proud, capable, maybe organized. I feel organized when I see all my books out in my living room. And we'll hopefully have some peace of mind that our photos, our best photos, are in printed form. So if anything ever happened in the digital space, a data loss or a hard drive failure, we have them printed in the most like old-fashioned form. So a little peace of mind comes with this too. So let's focus on the positive emotions, even though we might all be feeling some overwhelm as we move into these projects. So where should we start if making a photo book is the goal? My first tip is to pick one or you will do none. I've seen a lot of clients fall into, I want to make a book for every year since I started having kids and I have 10 books to make. Should I start with a new one? Should I start with the old one? What should I do? Well, the reality is we need to just pick one book. It doesn't matter what book you start with. You need to pick one book because you can't make all 10 books at once. You have to pick one or you will do none. So my advice is to brain dump a list of books you want to make. If it's 10 books since you started having kids, you just write all those down on a note on your phone or write them on a piece of paper. And then just pick the one that feels like it will be the easiest to make. For some people, the most recent book is the easiest because those memories are fresh on their phone, they're fresh in their mind. Or some people, it's the oldest book because the perspective that you gain with the passage of time can sometimes make it easier actually to make older books. You know, now looking at all these photos, well, this person's not even not important. We're not playing baseball anymore, so maybe I only need one photo of that. Sometimes the passage of time helps you mute the emotions that come into selecting photos and designing a book. So my other point here is there are no rules. Just because, like, we're gonna talk later, and I'll show you some of my books later. Just because I make one book every year doesn't mean you have to make one book every year. So for that person who says, I want to make a book for every year since I had started having kids, and that's 10 books, well, what if they grouped those into maybe they moved 3 different times, and so they make it just 3 books based on the cities they lived in. Or maybe they do a book of 5 years in one and roll it up. So there's no rules here. Just look at what your goal is. I want to make these certain books, and then pick one so you can start to make progress. So I'm going to walk through like just a 3-step process with making photo books and some of the tips and how we can simplify it and things like that. We're going to start with selecting the photos. The biggest tip I can share, life-changing for me, about getting photo books done is that you separate the selection of the photos for the book from the actual designing of the book. Everybody says, I want to make a photo book from this trip I just went on, so I'm going to log into Shutterfly and I'm going to start making a book. But what will actually really skyrocket your chance of success is if you sit on your phone and you pick the best photos and you narrow it down from 1,000 photos from that trip to your 300 favorite photos. And then step 2, we'll move over to the Shutterfly website or whatever photo book website you want. But selecting the photos is a separate task from making a photo book. And you make all those decisions up front, it makes the design process so much easier because you've already decided what photos are going in the book. You've got them all ready to go. So we're going to select the photos as our first task. And here's how I would suggest considering doing it. So albums, virtual albums, that's tricky when we're talking about a class about albums, when we're talking about physical books, but I'm talking about like these virtual albums in your phone. Albums are a great workspace for gathering photos related to the project, whether you're making a photo calendar, whether you are making a thing for your kids' slideshow for school, whether you are making a photo book. Albums are a great gathering place to put all of the photos related to this project. This screenshot is from my iPhone, the Apple Photos app, but albums are a feature in multiple cloud, like your chosen cloud service. You can make your albums in Google Photos. You could make albums in Apple Photos, like I'm going to show here, or you can make albums in Amazon Photos, which is another popular service. So wherever you have all your photos, that's a great place to make some albums. An album's going to be the workspace. And the reason I love having it there is it's just not realistic to say today I'm going to do all my photo selection and expect that life's not going to get in the way. Like you're going to get 800 interruptions as you're working on this. So the album is a nice little gathering space, the workspace for this. And if we have to start and stop, all right, we can just come back and see where we left off and add some more photos and work on this gradually over several days, several weeks, several months. It just makes it more flexible, kind of track what you're doing. So this is a screenshot here where I've made several placeholders. Oh wait, hang on, there it is. Okay, I've made several placeholders. So as you made a brain dump, you can just make a blank album. See, they all say 0. You can make placeholders in your camera roll to add things to. The reason I like making the placeholders is, okay, here's my list. I maybe chose I'm going to do my wedding book first. Well, I'll work on photo selection for my wedding book, but maybe as I'm going through the wedding book selection, I come across this awesome photo of my dog that I like really want to make sure gets put in the dog memorial book. So then I could be like, all right, I'm going to add, well, I'm not working on the dog album. I'm not working on the dog book, but I came across this photo and I know where to put it so that when the day comes and I'm working on the dog album, not the dog book. That word album is so hard. When I'm working on the dog book, I'll know where to put that photo so that when I sit down to work on the dog book, it's already in there. So these are placeholders. I want to do a quick note about albums and how they work in case you're not familiar with these virtual albums. Albums do not create duplicate copies of your photos. Albums do not create duplicate copies of your photos. So when I find this wedding picture I want to put in my wedding book and I add it to the wedding album here, it's just creating a reference point to that singular photo in my library. It's not making a second one. You can make as many albums as you want. You can have albums just there temporarily. When I finish my wedding book, I delete it and all the pictures stay intact in your library and you don't have to pay more for storage space or anything. So we're going to go crazy with albums. We're going to talk a lot about albums in January too, when we talk about organizing our phones. Nancy, I think you had a question. Do you mind throwing it in the chat? I can see the chat while I'm talking, so I can answer it there too. What else was I going to say? Oh, I have a shortcut for you as you're creating your albums. The search tool. Again, I'm showing Apple Photos on my iPhone, but Google Photos offers phenomenal search features too. One tip I have is don't feel like you need to review every single photo in your collection in order to make an exceptional book. So let's go back to that example of I want to make a dog memorial book. I can use search for the word dog and I can type in a year. So here I typed in dog, 2012. I can then find all the pictures from the year I got my dog, hypothetically. Or and then I'll just review these search results, 134 for that year. I'll review those search results, select all the pictures that I really love, and I'll add them to my dog memorial book album. Now, am I missing things? Are there other pictures of the dog like that Apple or Google did not find? Maybe he was to the side or behind or something. It didn't find it. Well, even that one there, he's sleeping on the couch. I knew that was a dog somehow. The search is phenomenal. So yes, things might slip through the cracks. There might be 136 pictures of my dog, 134 pictures, but you can make an exceptional book just from these 134 pictures. And so my suggestion is you search as a shortcut to target what you need, make the selections off that result, and then put them in your album. And you'll end up with a whole bunch of really great photos. So you do not have to review everything in your library to make a great book. Okay, Nancy's question was on how to create albums. And then once created, how do I earmark each photo accordingly? So that's going to vary by service, but in this screen here, this is the albums section of the Apple Photos app. Up there in the top left, it says create. So that's how I made these. And then when you're in your library, when you're inside a photo, you can select a bunch of photos and you have the option, it's the share button. You'll have an option to add to album and it will show you your album list so you pick the right album you want. Yeah, so they can stay there. They're not taking up any space. And most importantly, they're not duplicating your photos and making a mess of your library. If anything, they're making it a lot more organized.
Got it. Okay. All right. Thank you.
Sure. So now that we've talked about creating workspaces and using search to help us find what we're trying to get at, I think it's nice to have a photo goal. This is optional though. Not everyone needs to have a goal number of photos, but I think it helps me to have something to work towards. And so my calculation I use is the goal number of pages for the book times 5. And then that's my goal number of photos. I always end up with more than my goal. And then as I come into the design phase, which we'll talk about next, some of them kind of just fall off as I'm getting them on the page and they don't fit just right, or I decide I don't like it anymore. So I come in a little over my goal every time. Page count is going to vary a lot by book. So if it helps to have a reference point, my family yearbooks, which I will show later, so I make one book a year with all of my favorite photos from the year, they have about 75 pages. They're pretty big. A baby book, my baby books for my kids have about 50 pages, so they're a little smaller. And then my wedding book has 20 pages, so it's smaller too. So it helps to kind of think about how big do I want this book to be? And then times five photos on a page, just to get a rough goal. And so then, as you can see, all these albums say 0, but so that's the count of how many photos that you've put into these albums. So that's the goal that you're working towards. So we've selected the photos. I say it like that one's the easy one, but that's the time consuming part, is picking all the photos. Give yourself breaks as you're going through it. That's totally fine. Now we're going to design the pages. Designing the pages is the fun part. And now that if you've got the photo selection decisions made, it really is that much more fun, because the deciding and selecting of the photos is the exhausting part. We make a lot of decisions all day long in our life. And so it's just exhausting to have to decide about all the photos, but we made those decisions. So now we truly just to get to have fun putting photos on pages. First, I would say choose your printing company that you want to make your books through. And all that matters is having a finished book. So a lot of people get stuck here on what's the best printing company, what's the most affordable printing company, what's the best quality printing company. And my advice is, if you've made some books in the past and it went well for you, then use the company that you've used before. There's so many out there. My favorites, if you want to just a recommendation on where to get started, my favorites are Printique. They are owned by Adorama out of Brooklyn. Adorama is like a professional camera gear company. So this is a professional level printing company that is available to everybody. Their quality is phenomenal. The books that I show you of my own are going to be from Printique. And then Chatbooks is my favorite if you just want affordable and easy, the quickest possible. So Printique is a higher end book. It's archival quality. It like the pages lay flat. Again, I'll show you in a little bit. They're going to be a little more expensive. I pay about $170 for my big annual book. Chatbooks, you don't have a lot of design options. You're just gonna throw photos on a page, get them printed. I pay $7 a month for my monthly mini Chatbooks. I got a picture of those coming up. So there are ways to do it all along the spectrum, but those two are my favorite companies. So we're going to pick a company and we're going to go to the website or the app on the phone, and we're going to upload that album that we selected that had our goal number of photos in it. And then we're going to put the photos on the pages. Don't overcomplicate it. What's normal is we get to like Shutterfly's website and they have 1,000 different designs of travel books, of baby books, of the dog books, of wedding books. They have all these beautifully designed templates, and you spend an hour going through, looking through all the designs and seeing like which ones you resonate with and which one you want to pick as your template. And I've decided I'm not doing any of that. I'm letting the photos speak for themselves. So here's a picture from one of my books. It was 2013. I think I'll show you the actual book that's in. It's just photos on the page, and it's beautiful. I can see all those great memories from our time. I think that was in Jamestown. And yes, that was in Jamestown, and we took the ferry. Yes, I can see all those beautiful photos. I can see my kids smiling. I can see the colors of what they're wearing, and it's not competing with all the elements from the professional designers at Shutterfly that they made to coordinate with the book. I'm just putting my photos on the pages. That's it. Put the photos on the pages. And then this is a completely optional step. I like to add a little bit of journaling into my books to tell the story. Totally optional. You can get a phenomenal, beautiful book with just photos in it. But I like to add journaling. So mine looks like this, where I have a month summary, couple sentences, and then just pages that follow like this that are just collage pages until the end of that month. I have, for clients, made ones where there's just a written summary on the first page of the book, and then it's all photos after that. I have other clients that like to put text over their pages or the pictures on all the pages with descriptions. Just don't let the journaling stop you from getting the book printed. So there are different ways to do it, and there's ways to just skip journaling entirely and just get the book printed. So something I like to remind myself of is done is better than perfect. When I start finding myself fixating on the designs available to me at that website, or the way that the photo is cropped, or the way it's falling on the page, or the font that I'm going to use, or all of those things, they don't really matter that much. Done is better than perfect. The goal here is to get a printed book in the hands of our families. Every book I have has a typo in it. It's fine. My son is a little bit of a perfectionist. He brings it up. He's the one who notices the typos in my books. That's fine. You know what they don't notice? They don't notice the kind of the paper that I printed on. They don't notice the number of pages. They don't notice the size of the book. They don't say, Mom, how come you chose this font? Mom, how come you didn't include a picture of a graphic of Santa from the clip art gallery at Shutterfly? It just, done is better than perfect. We are overthinking it. We're going to get these books done. All right. We picked all the photos. We got them all on the pages. I want to talk about enjoying the book. Well, I guess my tip between the two of those is if you're not in a time crunch with your books, I like to make them, put them in the cart, and then wait for a sale. So Printique does a sale like every month or two. Shutterfly does sales all the time. And so often I will make the book and then order in a following month when there's a sale. That's just me. Sometimes though, I'm so excited to get the book that I order it immediately. So let's talk about enjoying the book. This is a picture from my living room today. You can see our Christmas tree. And I really am a believer in keeping the books where people will enjoy them. I think it's very common to print the books and then put them on a shelf or put them in a cabinet, sort of locked away to keep them nice. And that's not the point of the books. The point is we want the books to be out where people can enjoy them and accessible. And so this is our couch right in the TV room. This table, I have them stacked up there. 2016 is missing because it's up in my daughter's room. She's been wanting to read it lately. So on the bottom here, I have all of our books and I see the kids pull them out and read them on occasion. And then on the top, this white basket here are our chat books, our monthly minis. So this bottom section are all these ones here are from Printique. This is our annual books. And this top section are my little monthly minis that I get from Chatbooks. I almost view these as kind of disposable. It's just like to get photos quickly into my hands of my kids throughout the year. And I put some silly stuff in there, like they take pictures of their stuffies, different things, classmates. I'll just put sort of the kids' photos in there so they can have them. So keep those photos where your family can enjoy them. Oh, and one more tip about that. I know it's like very common. You put a lot of work into this, you put some money into this. It's common to like want to really protect them and keep them safe, but they're meant to be enjoyed. And also Chatbooks in particular has what they call a toddler guarantee. So if like the dog gets the book and breaks it, or the toddler dunks it in the bathtub and ruins it, they replace your books. I mean, one time each for each one. So and every photo book website has the ability to log back in and reorder your book. So let's not treat them like they're irreplaceable. We want people to enjoy them. All right, I have a few tips to make things easier now that we made it through our 3 steps. Number 1, you can make it so much easier for your future self if you get into the habit of favoriting your best photos. So if throughout the year, as you're taking photos, you're hitting the heart, and Google, I think it's a star, but on iPhone, it's a heart. You're hitting heart. Like once a week, maybe you're reviewing all the photos and hearting the ones that you really love. Then you can do your photo selection in seconds at the end of the year. You can type in here in the search, I've typed in 2024, favorites, and it will show all the favorites from this year. Great, select them all, put them in an album, and my photo selection is done. So getting into the practice of favoriting your best photos as you move through the year really pays off at year end when you're trying to use your photos or print your photos. The second tip I have, a little crazy. You can use ChatGPT to write your journaling. So I know this feels weird, and journaling for me is a little bit of a hurdle. I want to include journaling in my books, but I have a hard time coming up with the words. I'm not a writer. I've never been good at that. I can summarize what I see in the photos and like just write brief summaries, but I'm just not great with journaling. So that for me feels like a hurdle. So this year I decided I'm going to try and see what ChatGPT can do, because I use ChatGPT for all kinds of other writing in my life. So here's one I did recently. I made this book. I'll show it once I'm not screen sharing, but you might be able to see it. It's a little Super Nintendo World book that I made for my son. And I said, hey, chat, I'm making a photo book for my 12-year-old son about our 3-day trip to Universal Studios in Hollywood. It was a special birthday trip just with mom and Colin. He chose Super Nintendo World. I'd like to start the book with a cute poem written in the style of a Nintendo video game about the experience. Please make it 8 sentences long and ask me additional questions to provide the information you need. Chat replied, this sounds like a wonderful project. Here's a first draft of a poem inspired by your special trip. Before finalizing it, here are a few questions to help add details. The questions that asked me were, do I want myself and my son to be included in the poem? Do I want a heroic, adventurous tone or a light and playful tone? And then it asked me if there were any aspects of Colin's personality that I wanted to be highlighted. And then it also asked what were the highlights, like the moments that stood apart from those in those 3 days that I wanted to include. It was so much easier for me to answer those questions, not worrying about how they sound polished to put in a book. I just answered them conversationally. We really loved eating lunch at the Toadstool Cafe. Colin loved seeing his favorite characters come to life. Colin was first in the park for collecting power-up coins, whatever it was. I just told it some information. Should I read? I can read the poem that I wrote if you guys want. It wrote, through a tunnel of green to a land full of cheer, we stepped into magic. Nintendo was here. Colin's eyes sparkled wide with delight as characters he loves came to life in his sight. The Toadstool Cafe was our favorite retreat with mustached burgers and themed dishes so neat. Mom faced Bowser's challenge, a fiery meatball so bold, while the Mount Beanpole cake sparkled with treasures untold. Wearing his power-up band, Colin conquered each land, collecting gold points with the wave of his hand. On day 2, he soared #1 in the park, a birthday victory leaving its mark. The Mario Kart ride, our unstoppable spree. With our hidden cheat code, we'd glide in with glee. And watching Colin marvel at each colorful scene, Mom knew these moments were more than just a dream. So that I could never have written that. And that was what he wrote. And that's the start of his book. I was truly going to just have a book of only photos. And then the cover says Super Nintendo World because I didn't know what to write. It was a special trip and I had emotions about it, but like I just couldn't get them out into words. Poem for a Nintendo video game. It's just perfect. That you might have noticed was longer than the 8 lines that I asked for. So it gave me that draft and I said, well, this is great. Can you make it longer? And so it made it like 16 lines, I think is what that was. And I didn't know how to answer its question. Did I want heroic or playful tones? And so I asked it to write one of each. And then I picked the one that I liked. So chat, okay? So let's leverage it for good and let it help us. In a non-travel sense, like this one was fun and poetic and so cute, but in just my family journaling this year, I'm going to use it by saying, hey, chat, can you write me 2 paragraphs about to highlight what we did in March, or like the highlights where we went skiing, Jill lost a tooth, Colin had a band concert. I'll give it like 5 highlights, and then it's going to turn it into words and sentences for me. So I can think in bullet points very easily, and it can turn it into paragraphs for me in my book. So ChatGPT for the win, guys. My last tip is to ask for help. I know this feels weird. Well, first, you can hire someone to do the books entirely for you. I'm here to help. I make books for clients all the time. But on a smaller scale, you can ask for help within your household. So I recently helped a client who had several thousand of photos from the year to make her yearbook. And she was really struggling with her daughter's theater photos in particular. She had done several productions throughout the year, and each one generated hundreds and hundreds of photos. She's like, I'm just kind of exhausted trying to decide what photos are going to go into this book. And I said, have your daughter give you her 4 favorite photos from each theater production of the year. And she did. So her daughter handed her, these are the 4 photos that I want for Little Mermaid. These are the 4 photos I want from Fiddler on the Roof. And then she put them in the book. So much easier. She could help. Someone can help. So people can help with photo selection. People can help with getting the photos on the page. It makes them more invested in the project, I think. So don't feel like you have to do this all by yourself. All right, I made a list of homework for us. I said at the beginning, it's nice to make a list of the photo book projects that you are considering, like a wish list of I would like to put these photos out in my living room, just to get them out of your brain tangibly onto a piece of paper. We're just brainstorming. We don't have to do them all. We're putting them down, and then we're going to pick one to get started with. Whatever one feels the easiest to you, because the one that you're going to have the highest probability of finishing is what I want you to do first. You're going to get that book in your hands, and you're going to feel so excited paging through this book that it's going to give you the motivation to move on to the next book. So whichever one you're going to get finished quickest and into hands is what I want you to start. We're going to create album placeholders for that list that we made, so that as we're living our lives and we accidentally stumble across in our camera roll some like photos, oh my gosh, this has to go in my wedding album. This has to go in my mom's travel album. You've got a place to put them, to kind of hold them and gather until you're ready to work on that project. And then I want you to start selecting photos. I want you to start selecting photos. Don't feel like you got to look at every single one. Use the search. Tell it to show you your favorites. Tell it to show you a certain person. Tell it to show your dog. Use search to help you find what you need. All right. I left lots of time for questions and a little bit of time for show and tell if people want to look at the albums that I brought.
Now, I love how you leveraged the Chat GPT. That was just that I
That's so cute.
I know. And every day I learn more and more either on that or Microsoft Copilot. I'm like, this is amazing. So yes, yes.
How cute what it made. And I never could have. And my son doesn't know. He read it and thought it was so great. He doesn't know Chat wrote it.
Yeah, that's the word, right? Exactly.
Mom's the word.
The questions I had, I think you pretty much answered them. Okay. As we went through and everything. So I have a very small family, so it's not so much of people. I save a lot of quotes and pictures, things like like that I see on social. So I guess I was thinking maybe like create an album of positive thoughts, right? And
Amen. Yes, that's great.
okay.
Yes. I'm trying to think. I mean, I've made albums for all sorts of things. These are my primary albums,
Okay.
the annual yearbook, because for me, I knew I could achieve one book a year. I wasn't going to sign up for me. I couldn't
Right.
sign up to make one book for each kid every year. So I make one book for the whole family. Everyone's
Right.
equally represented. The trips are in it. But sometimes I have little special projects that I'll one off. So like similar to what you said, I have a book from when we renovated a condo and I took all the pictures of the project and the before pictures and the after pictures. And
Yeah.
so I made a little book like that.
Right.
Or a trip, a little trip. So I don't have any rules.
Exactly. So I wrote down your services. You use the one called Printique for your big annuals. And then you talked about a monthly chat book. Those are the ones, what you said, more for the kids and it's a little more economical or okay.
Yes. So these are both Printique. This is they're like 75 pages for the year. This is my annual one. And then this is also Printique, but it's a smaller one. It's an 8x8 and it's a much thinner book, right? That was just a little
Right.
weekend trip. So
Right.
they're very different in price. This one was maybe $50 and this was like almost 200, maybe 170.
Right.
They're different in price, but they're the same quality. And what I love about Printique is how vibrant their colors are. This is so true to what I see on my phone. Some other printing companies have a more like pastel muted vibe, but this is like just so exactly the colors that I see on my phone. It's a nice lay flat, so I can have the photo go through the middle and there's no gap there getting anything cut out.
Printique. Okay. Okay.
That's Printique. And these are archival quality, which is why they do cost a little more. So they, not to get too sciencey, but they inject the ink into the pages instead of an inkjet, which is just on top. And so these can actually like get water splashed on them and it wipes off. Whereas an inkjet, all the ink would wipe off too if it got water on it.
Right. Okay.
But they don't fade like regular books would. So I think it's worth the little extra bit. I don't think it's actually that much more expensive than Shutterfly, but that's just my favorite one.
Oh, sure. Oh, sure. That's your favorite. And then the other one was called what? Chat books? Okay.
Chat books. do I not have my chat books sitting here? They're out in the living room in that basket.
No
So
worries.
in the picture.
Okay, okay.
But they are small, they're soft cover. I do what's called the monthly minis. So it's a subscription. I pay, I think, $7 a month, but it includes the shipping. And I get to pick 30 photos every month. I don't do designs or words or anything. It's just 30 pictures from my camera roll in a row in a soft cover book. And it's like a 5x5 size or something. It's pretty small.
Got it. Got it. Okay.
So that way, if the kids, I don't know, my son went to camp this summer, right? And he took a disposable, or not disposable, a little digital, cheap digital
Sure.
camera. And I was like, well, I'm not going to do a whole bunch in this family book of all his camp photos, but I could throw 30 of them in this chat book and you can have that. Yeah.
Absolutely. And that's what I was going to ask you. Do you solely rely on the camera on your phone, or if you have, obviously from your past, do you still take pictures from an actual camera, or is just use?
Not too much.
Okay.
All of my stuff in here, like these are all phone photos.
Wow.
Those
Okay.
are all taken with my iPhone.
Mhm.
But then there's one spread for each kid
Okay.
during their birthday month, which is October. Let's find it.
Okay.
I take them with my fancy camera and take like cute photos just of them. So that's the
Yeah.
difference of my fancy camera. And it really doesn't look different, right? Like
Right. Right. No, the
it
the iPhone has
looks
really
great.
on on the
Yeah.
camera quality. Yeah,
Colors and quality really aren't any
exactly.
different.
And then, adjust any settings on your phone. You just let it automatic. Okay. Okay.
I don't do any photo editing in these either. A lot of people, that is a big hurdle. They're like, I need to edit all my photos before I get them printed, but
Right.
I did not edit any of these photos. These are just taken on my camera.
Okay.
Like such great colors. That's what I love about Printique. It doesn't print darker or lighter than what I see on my phone.
Oh, yes.
Yep.
Love it. Love it. Okay. Okay. Well,
Yeah.
this has been great direction. I definitely have got a little holiday project here. And then at some point, I don't know if you'll teach it with Skill Pop or I'll just pursue your services, separately. But I have, like I said, a plethora of actual physical pictures and would love
Mhm.
perspective sometime, or if you do teach a course in the future on how you master or right kind of harness that.
Yes, I do have a class on scanning. So it would require you to invest in a scanner and they are a little bit pricey, but that is how I've digitized all my photos
Okay.
from the past. Yeah. They're
Okay.
in this, actually, they're in this box. That's my photo box. I just narrowed it down to
Mm-hmm.
that box. Now, after I digitized stuff, I got rid of a lot.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Very good. And
I offer scanning services if you're like,
Mhm.
I don't want to buy a scanner and I don't want to do this
Right.
myself. It is time consuming. You can mail me batches of photos and I will scan them.
And you will scan them. Okay. Do you have to do them individually? Okay. That's the only.
Well, the scanner I recommend is called the Epson Fast Photo, and you put a stack on it. It's like it looks more like a printer or a fax machine, so it pulls through
Okay.
them and it crops them individually. So you can put a stack of like 20 on it, and
Oh,
it
okay.
will do them.
It's
Yeah.
the fast photo. Okay.
Mhm.
Look at that. Or if I'm like, hey, do I want to take that on? That's one of the wonderful services you offer. Okay.
Yep. The Epson Fast Photo, just to give you a price range, is usually about $500. So it's on sale like $499 is usually when I wait.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
But it can do documents too, and it can do photos of all sizes. You throw
Right.
them on there and it crops to the right size. And
Yeah.
it's pretty great.
Yeah. I have just my little, home printer, copier, scanner at home, but it's just like designed to do like one document, right? Yeah.
It's designed for the all-in-one printers are designed for documents. I noticed the colors are not usually that
Yeah.
great with photos. Yeah.
So,
Yep.
okay. Well, wonderful, wonderful. Well,
Sure.
this
I
is
was gonna show
yes.
I have a couple things. So actually there was a question too from Elsie. Do you only use your photos for your books? What about your husband's pics? So his pics are in here too, but he doesn't take very many pictures.
Okay.
So he takes most of the picture, or I take most of the pictures. And then when we do like a birthday party or a trip, he is an Android user and loves Google. And so he has set up sharing in Google so that I can click into my Google and I see his
Right.
stream of photos, and I pick the ones I want, of like me and the kids or whatever. I'll
Mhm.
pick them, and then they might appear in this book too. Yeah, but he doesn't really. It's not that many, so that makes it a little easier.
Got it. Got it.
Yeah. Okay, so one thing I wanted to show from Colin's book, which I said this was an 8x8. My favorite part was that ChatGPT wrote the intro, and then there's no other words after that. One thing that I did that was fun in Colin's book is I printed a QR code and taped it into the back cover. You can kind of see the tape there over it, shiny. So I made a video of the footage from this trip and set it to music. It was a cute little like 2-minute video. And so that the QR code, if we scan it with my phone, will start playing that video that I made on YouTube. So I could print it in the book. I have done that before. Let's see if I can find one. Um, like this one I showed had a QR code down there. So I sometimes print them in the book, but this one I just printed it off on my printer and taped it into the back cover, which is fun. I also brought a fabric cover book
What was
to
the
show
QR
you.
code? Sorry, what was the QR code for?
Oh, it was to a video that I made from the trip with like
Oh,
our
okay.
footage, and
Okay.
it was set to music. Yeah. So it went to YouTube where the video was saved. Yeah. So that was the QR code. And oh, I'll show you before I talk about the fabric cover. Another little thing I add into some books is our Christmas card from the year. So this was our Christmas card in 2023. And they just have photo corners, those things we used to use in the past. Probably seen those before. I just used photo corners and stuck them on here. You can get a 500 pack of photo corners for $5 on Amazon. So that will last me my entire life of putting Christmas cards in the back of my book. But you could also use the Christmas card as a bookmark in the book and not even stick it in. I was going to talk really quick about the fabric cover. So they're popular and people like they're pretty and people make them, but my unpopular opinion, they can't hold up to my household. So if you look at this close, you can see like there's snack crackers that got pushed in there. There's scratches. There's like scratches on the side. I've tried lint rollers. I've tried cleaning it. Like it's fabric, so it gets dirty. And so I much prefer photo covers that I can just wipe down if anything gets dirty, uh, for what it's worth. I learned that one only by printing it and letting it sit out in my living room and realize we just can't have things that nice. It's fine. um, when you upload the photos to design the pages, are you picking out the photo layout template? So I use a design software that is a collage generator. So it makes these collages for me, and it's just a computer program I use called Album Stomp. It's from back when I was a wedding photographer, but I drag all these pictures, I drag it onto the page, and it snaps them into this collage. And then I go to the next page and I drag those 4 onto it and it snaps them into this collage. So I save a ton of time on my books by using a collage generator software to make my books. If I were going to go to Printique's website, I've made a lot of books there too, but before I started using the software, I would look for a plain template that's just photos on the pages. Because I feel like the background elements compete with the photos, or I get so hung up on deciding what the background elements should be. So yeah, I would pick a very basic photo layout template. The way Printique works is you pick like, I want 5 photos on this page, and then you see the layouts of 5 photos, and then you put your 5 photos on it. And so that's it. I just keep it simple. But the collage generator, if people are interested, I do have a class that walks through that. It's called the Family Yearbooks course. The program though is called Album Stomp, and it's made for wedding photographers, but I have taught so many people to do it for these family yearbooks, but it's like makes collages, and then I upload them at a photo book website to print them.
Do you do anything special with your kids, like school pictures?
Good question. I didn't want to overcomplicate, right?
Right.
My point was like, let's make them easy, but So when I show you this, keep in mind that I've been making these books I started in 2010 making these photo books. So this is several years of evolution of getting better at these. This is not how all my books used to look. So I make a page for each kid at the end that's called Year in Review, and it has their school picture, it has some favorite things about them, it has some pictures of their artwork, and it has some funny quotes from the year that could be inappropriate. I don't even know what I'm showing. So I do a page for each kid as the back page of our photo book. And they love looking at those
Nice.
pages, but
Yeah.
I didn't always do that. Oh, and it has their little handwriting sample, which was fun when they were little. Her name's Jillian, and it says it like written there with a heart. So I've kind of just played with through the years. The first photo books feel stressful, right? Like, oh, I don't know how to do this. Everything feels slower. I'm making mistakes or I'm changing things a lot. And then as you get so many under your belt, then you start thinking of like, oh, maybe it'd be fun to put a handwriting sample in here to like commemorate her handwriting at age 5. Or maybe it would be fun to make a QR code to this video from the trip. Or maybe it'd be fun to put my Christmas card in it. You just start thinking of other stuff once you get over the basics being hard. This dog is not happy with me. I don't know. Hopefully, since I'm on my headphones, you guys can't hear him whining this whole time.
I'm trying to make an album for my parents' 50th anniversary party. And
Well, that's a big first project.
so I ended up making separate folders of the type of picture it is, like whether it was dancing or decor or, specific pictures of my parents that I wanted definitely included. Because I was getting pictures we had used Guest Pics, which is where everyone can upload their pictures that they take during the party. So I had to go through everyone's pictures, and I kind of went through their folders, picked the ones that I liked, and now I'm weeding through those to get that done. But it's just, it's not fun.
Yeah, take breaks.
Yes.
Take breaks. I think we think, oh, I can sit down and knock this out during my lunch break. Like I'm gonna just make this photo book, but it's exhausting. I think it's a lot of decision making. And so give yourself some breaks. Yeah. This dog. I already did all the things for you before this call. So come over here. Come here.
And you're
No,
good,
that's
Casey.
not-
We cannot hear him, so you're good.
Okay, good. He's just whining.
No, we
At
cannot
least it's
hear.
not barking. Yeah. Yep. What else? I love a 50th. Wait, it's a nice way to commemorate it. Oh, I'm trying to think of what other books I've made. I'm pretty boring, right? Like this is my catch-all. I make this one book a year. It catches all the birthdays, it catches any trips we took. It checks it all off for me. I am committed to making one book a year and I get it done. There are other people who make a book per kid per year, and that's great for them. But I knew I wasn't gonna be able to maintain that. I was like, I don't know how many kids we're gonna have. I don't want to start something with the first kid and not be able to do it with the next kid. For me, I can commit to one book a year. The other thing I get asked a lot is, do I print copies of this book for everyone? So one for me and one for both kids to potentially take with them out of the house. I get asked that question a lot. My answer is no, I print one book. First of all, it's expensive. Second of all, it's a lot of space. You saw like the stack in our living room. I don't want to pay for and store a copy for my son and my daughter for them when they turn 18 to maybe take out of my house when I don't know this moment if they're even going to want to. So if that happens when they're 18 and they want to take books with them, I could reprint at that time, but I really don't see it happening. I see these being books that are here at my house, and when they come back home, they enjoy them. The other thing that I've shared before that is controversial, people will have feelings, is I plan to tell my kids that they can throw them away if they want to after I pass away. So these books I made for me and for me to watch them enjoy. And if it's something that they don't want to carry on with them through life, they don't have to. People feel a lot of feelings when I say that. But these books I made because I enjoy them and I enjoy watching my kids look through them. And so they've served their purpose, and I don't want someone to feel like they need to take all these books after I pass away if they don't want them. Do I organize the annual book by month? Yes. So it starts with, that says January in script there, and then I have a quick summary, not written by ChatGPT. I didn't know about that in 2013 or 2023. Then I have February, and I just do collage, collage, March, collage, collage, some of collage. Some of the months are different lengths, right? This we had a spring break in March. So this one's longer, collage, April. But I always do start my month on the left side. Collage, collage, June, collage, collage, July. Yep, so that's how it goes. And then it ends with that, the year in review for each kid. And then I also have a page with a couple of QR codes on the back. Yeah. What else?
How do you use ChatGPT? I keep hearing about it and it's like, is it an app? Is it a website? What is it?
It's both. I mostly use it as a website. I don't know if the website is chatgpt.com. It used to be OpenAI. No, now it's chatgpt.com. I do
Okay.
not pay for it. So everything I talked to through, I did on the free plan. And there's not a way to make a mistake. It is a conversational machine. So when I asked it that prompt, like write me a poem about this and make it 8 sentences long, what you get back is only as good as like how well you prompt it to do something. So I said that to it, and the most important part of that prompt was when I said, ask me what the additional information you need to like do a good job writing this poem. Because I told it that, it then was able to like write that poem that was so personal. So yeah, you go to chat and just play around with the way you talk to it. I always say like, hey chat, I'm working on this. I need your help doing this. And it wrote that for me. But then if you don't like what you get back the first time, talk back to it. It's conversational. So you can say like, ooh, can you write that like a little bit more direct and to the point? Or, oh, can you soften this message to like, or can you make it longer? Like I said, oh, that's great. Can you make it 16 sentences instead of 8? So it's just play with it. Like I said, I use the free one to do everything I've done in ChatGPT in my life so far has been with the free one. I have a prompt. I can throw it in the chat if I can find it real quick. Okay, here's the prompt I'm going to use for my writing my monthly summaries for my yearbook this year. So it says, you're an expert scrapbook coach. You've been helping people create scrapbook layouts that document family memories for 20 years. Your task is now to help me write the journaling I will add to the pages alongside the photo collages I've designed. Please ask questions before you answer, so you better zone in on what I'm seeking. Do you understand? Let's start with January. Please write 2 paragraphs recapping the month. Here are 5 highlights. And then I would write, Colin had a band concert, Jill lost a tooth, the dog broke his leg. I don't know. You write your like list of the 5 things. Doesn't have to be 5. You can make it whatever you want. And then it will turn it into paragraphs for me. So that is one prompt that I'm definitely going to use. And if you're great at journaling, I love that for you. But that was just the hard part for me, was turning them into sentences. Like I could look at my pictures in the book and say, okay, he must have done the Pinewood Derby that month because he's holding the Pinewood Derby car. And oh, he was in the spelling bee. And we went figure skating and we went skiing. Like I can look at the pictures, but like that's not a paragraph. And so that's where ChatGPT can help me turn those things I just listed into sentences. And sometimes when you say, do you ask me, you say, ask questions before you answer. Sometimes it'll come back and say like, well, were there any like particular moments that stood out from your ski trip? And I might reply like, I remember coming in for hot chocolate with the kids, or I don't know, our first time on the moguls. And then that's what it includes. So it doesn't feel like a robot writing generic sentences. It actually feels like I wrote the journaling. It's scary. It's good though, if we're using it for good here.
Do you ever, like, part of the thing I'm thinking about for the 50th anniversary that's holding me up is writing little lines about things on the pictures. Um,
Chat's gonna do that for you. Yeah. You could have her write a poem.
I could, and then
Yeah.
don't do anything else.
So related, my mom, my whole life, my mom's a poet, like as a hobby, and people hired her to write poems for events like a 50th anniversary or a wedding. She did a poem at my rehearsal dinner, and she'll collect from people a list of like key personality traits or funny inside jokes or memories in particular, and then they give her that like intake form, and she turns it into, you know, like a several page poem that someone stands up and like delivers at the party. And she did it like at my rehearsal dinner. It was all about like funny memories from my childhood and funny memories from my husband's childhood. They're so funny. And my mom now uses ChatGPT to write them. She takes the list and puts it into ChatGPT. And then she fine tunes it with her like skill and at making things funnier and different things. But it really it can do some outstanding work. Such a unique talent. Yeah, she has such a cool talent with that. I clearly didn't get it. As I'm saying, I had a hard time making sentences describing our ski trip. But yeah, you could, I mean, I feel bad admitting this, but my son was, had to go on a camping trip for school in sixth grade. Here they do a week camping with sixth grade outdoor lab. And I was struggling with what to write in the like letters that they deliver them. You need to write them ahead of time. So I couldn't be like, today we got 2 feet of snow. I needed to write a week ahead of time. And so I just asked ChatGPT to write me 2 letters to my son at camp. And then I edited them. So once I get this foundation, like here, Chat gave me 2 paragraphs, and then I can come in and tweak them and then add a sentence that I wrote myself. And I think it would be really helpful with the 50th anniversary if you're handed paragraphs first and then you just tweak them to be what you want.
Yeah, I had one more question. How much overlap is there between your chapbooks and your final yearbook? Or is it
A
mostly?
lot,
Okay.
because I'm mostly picking like the 30 best photos from the month in my chapbook every month. And so those are mostly the photos that at the end of the year I'm going to print in here. But there's been several months where I don't have 30 photos that I want to print in the chapbook. And so I will sometimes tell the kids, like, go take photos of your stuffies or your Lego creations, or my son builds things out of cardboard, your cardboard creations. And so then I'll put that kind of stuff in to the chapbook, and that I don't usually put it in the family book. So I'd say there's a lot of overlap, but there are also times where I just kind of put stuff in the chapbook just to get it deleted off my camera roll when it's done.
And do you make your book a month at a time, or are you doing this at the end of the year? Like, do you kind of do,
These ones,
yeah, like, do you work ahead?
I don't. Wouldn't it be
Okay.
nice if I did? No, for years, my earliest years, the bottom of the stack, the picture in my living room, they're bigger books because they were like a different printing service at the time. I would do them weekly or monthly as I went, and that was fine, but I was always thinking about it. I was always feeling behind or like I needed to catch up. And so shifting to just working on this in January every year actually has felt pretty freeing and worked better for me. Absolutely, you can go into Printique and work on a project over time and keep saving it. But it's a January project and I get it done in January, and that's fine. And it feels like I don't worry about it the whole rest of the year. Anything else?
A great class. Really, really got a lot out of it. So thank you again.
Good. I do think, sorry, there was a question about when the Skill Pop call is in January. Denise might be able to answer that fast. I should know this. It's on my calendar, but I don't have it.
I read the question. What was the question again?
When the January class is scheduled for. I'm just looking at the
Let me
website.
see. I have it right here in front of me. Just give me a
Okay.
couple seconds.
The 8th?
Oh, it is the
January
8th. Yes.
Okay.
It is January the 8th on Wednesday.
Yes, I have taught that one before with Skill Pop. It's a great class. We talk more about like how you can clean up your camera roll, how you can use albums to earmark your favorite photos. Like I have a best of each kid and a best of the dog. I give a lot of suggestions on ways to just, it's not necessarily with making a photo book in mind, but ways that we can feel more organized in our camera roll.
And I just put in the chat the link for that class
Perfect.
if you guys want to register. Yes.
That one's fun too, but less show and tell. I don't bring my books to that class. Yeah. Also, thanks for coming to my read along story time. I didn't expect to read the book. But it's so cute. I'm just so proud of what ChatGPT wrote. Yeah. Any other questions?
I'm good. Thank you so much.
Cool. Denise, we can give him time back, right? That's allowed.
Yeah, that is allowed.
Okay.
Well, thank you, everyone. Thank you, Casey. That was a lovely class. Thank you, everyone. You will receive a recording of this class between tonight and tomorrow. If you have any questions, please let us know. You can also send us an email to info@skillpop.com. Don't forget to follow us on Instagram, skillpop. And I also, I just wanted to leave you in the recording. I put the link for the next class that it will be on January the 8th. So it's already published on our website and you can go ahead and register there. And oh, Andrea, I just saw your comment. Sorry, I had the wrong time with the time zone. No worries. It's okay, it happens. We're about to close the session, but you will receive a recording between tonight and tomorrow. And if you have any questions for Casey or us, please let us know. Our email is info@skillpop.com. Okay. Okay,
Yeah.
well, thank you, everyone. Thank you, Casey.
Sure. Oh, I should say I am really active on Instagram too. So if you want to chat in my DMs there, your photo related questions, I am happy to chat there. I am Miss Dot Freddy over on Instagram. I don't know who the other Miss Freddy is, but it is Miss Dot Freddy is me.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Cool. I'm gonna go let this dog out because he's driving me crazy.
Yeah.
Poor thing.
Sorry.
No, you're good. We didn't hear him, so you're good. No worries.
Good.
Okay.
Thank you, everyone. Have a good night.
Thank you.
Bye.